Hello everyone, my name is Nicholas Nunez and I am the Scrum Master for the Summer 2019 EFWE team for the EFFORT project, whose product owner and mentor is Dr. Masood Sajadi. And my task was to implement a function on the VPS API that generates a start.ini file or common.ini file for the basic EFFORT user in order to automate the startup of the MT5 terminal. So before we begin, let me differentiate the start.ini and common.ini files. The start.ini file doesn't have an FTP path or any FTP settings because it's solely for the validation of the Forex credentials of the user. The common.ini file, however, is for when the user actually begins the automated trading. So it's going to have the FTP settings in order to generate reports for the user. So before we get into the function, let me say that I have it in the EFFORT solution, but in order to test the function, I had to put it in another solution. So this code here is identical to what's in the EFFORT solution. And also, before I get into the explanation of this function, let me explain some of these models. So as you can see here, I have a model for common settings, expert advisor settings, FTP settings, and single launch settings. So these models are taken from here. These classes have all of these fields. So the common settings model that I have has a field for profile, has a field for market watch, login, and so on. There are some settings here that I was able to omit because they won't be necessary for the EFFORT user. So like the proxy server and the testing settings of strategy tester launch, we don't need that. So as you can see here, for the fields that are integers, like the login ID, I made the integer nullable, which I will explain the reason for when I explain the function. So here I have the main function for creating the ini file, and of course I had to construct some objects for these classes. And over here I have some dummy data. A lot of it is commented out, a lot of it doesn't even make sense. I have here empty fields. So as you can see, this is actually going to create a start.ini file because it doesn't have any FTP settings. And that's actually shown here. So I chose FTP path, and if that's null, then we know it's going to be a start.ini file. And if it's not, then it's going to be a common.ini file. And we're going to try to see if the file exists already. If it already exists, we're going to delete it and we're going to create a new one. So regardless, we're going to create the file. And this is pretty straightforward. We're using StreamWriter and we're writing in each line. This is the commented common settings. And we have the fields here. We do these only if these values exist. If they don't exist, then that's not going to be in the file. And it works the same way for all of these. And this part isn't really necessary, but it's nice to have. We have the console reading it back to us. So yeah, let's take a look at the data folder. Here we have nothing. So we're going to take a look and run this function. Okay, it's still building. All right, so here we have the console. And there we go. So we have the console reading the file back to us. And let's see if that file is generated. Here it is. The start.ini file is generated in this config folder for my MT5. Let's take a look at its contents. Well, Auto configuration false, that's automatic. I put that regardless. As you can see, there's some of them where I just put these regardless. So, right, so here we see that it matches the dummy data, right? So how about we uncomment the FTP settings? All right, so let's try this again. This doesn't really matter. So let's try this again. As you can see, there's no common.ini file. Oh, well, there is. Sorry. Well, let's take a look at the overriding. So this is what we have in the common.ini. Now, let's overwrite this. There we have it. So the common.ini file has these fields now. And now it has the information that was uncommented. So that shows that this function works. Now, if you have any questions, my email is nnune028@fiu.edu. Once again, my name is Nicholas Nunez, and the product owner is Dr. Masood Sajadi, whose email is sajadi@cs.fiu.edu. I'll repeat it, but spelling the name. SADJADI@cs.fiu.edu. Thank you so much, and have a nice day.